Hey everyone, my name is Evan Mulvihill and I am a crossword puzzle constructor and I run this blog called Crosswords. Today I wanted to do a video tutorial on how to solve a difficult themeless puzzle. So when you're approaching a puzzle of this nature, it might be tempting to try to get the long answers. However, the long answers are usually include more difficulty because they're the most interesting entries in a themeless puzzle. So when you're looking at a puzzle and you're thinking, okay, where should I start? To be honest, I usually just start at one across because it's where, the cursor puts you automatically. However, if you were being even more strategic and really trying to solve for time, you might try to look for an area that has a lot of short clues because short entries typically have are the easiest to solve. So if we started in this corner, say, and we're looking through the clues for 45 across, 49 across, 53 across, and 55 across, we can try to assess for some patterns. So 45 across, smartass quality briefly. Now, this is kind of somewhat of I would put it under the misdirection clues, and it might not be the best to approach without having some other letters. If we're going to 49, loving way to take me. So you have to think about who wrote the clue, and I wrote it, so I know myself, and obviously I know what the answer is. As I am, so a loving way to take me is as I am. For 53 across, English subject. This also might be a misdirection clue. There's a few different meanings for subject. It could mean something to do with the subject and the object of a sentence, like a clause. It could have to do with the past or present. So tense is an option, but I wouldn't put it in yet. Teased, perhaps. So one way to approach that is, I'm not sure, but it might end with ed because it's the past. So doctor's order for short. So for short means that it might be an abbreviation or a, short slangy way to say something. So it's probably med, meaning medication. Now the tense I was thinking for here kind of makes some more sense. For facility, this is themeless puzzles often kind of either have a really short clue because short clues have a lot of ambiguity in it. Like facility can mean a structure, a building. It also can mean ease or, a simple ability to do something. So I also know ease is in crossword puzzles a lot. You should think about words that have a lot of vowels or a nice kind of vowel consonant balance, like Oreo, area. Those kind of words show up in crosswords all the time. So getting towards tense, and this is one where, you could probably take a few minutes and debate whether it is too hard, but a part of learning English or any language is learning the tenses. So that's one way to clue tense. Now, if we're looking at 34 down, create some chemistry question mark. The question mark is a clear signal that it's a misdirection clue. That means that the surface meaning or possibly multiple surface meanings, there's a deeper one that is trickier. So, looking at how it's going to be a verb because it has to follow create. And then I probably could guess that it's going to end in E because I don't think there's a lot of verbs that are like, ati or like atu, not in the English language. Teased, perhaps. At this point, I'm thinking like egged or something, but let's double check it because SEG would be a weird one. And again, we have wrote a complaint card, so it's in the past tense, which we ironically just discussed here. So it's probably going to end in ed. There's a few different things it could be. I would wait to try to answer that one. And now, just thinking through in a difficult themeless puzzle, if you're really up against a wall, which I don't think I'm up against a wall yet. However, if I needed to literally go through the alphabet A, B, C, D, E, F, G, G fits. There's not a lot of things that are going to fit here, like edit is not a word, um, edode, pretty much G makes edged. And so teased could be like kind of edge someone, like, kind of like place something in the edge of their presence, but not right where they could get it. So again, perhaps it's a little bit of a stretchy clue, but that's kind of what makes solving themeless crosswords fun, or at least fun for me. Part of a charged affair, that one just like really screams out to me, even though it's misdirection. That charged has to do with a very common 3-letter word in crossword puzzles. And at a later time, I'll probably put a list of very common 3-letter words that you see in crossword puzzles all the time. Kind of like, the 2-letter words in Scrabble. These are little building blocks for your solving abilities. Wrote a complaint card. I'm still not there. I'm thinking create some chemistry could be agitate. And I kind of, as I do this exercise, I'm realizing maybe I should do this on a puzzle I didn't write myself to kind of showcase more of it. And I think that'll be the next video I make. So bar staple. This is going to be a harder one. I wouldn't even try it yet without kind of getting it right on the surface, without getting more letters. Tinder specification, perhaps. This is a little bit of a misdirection. It's probably going to be about Tinder, the app, because you specify things on there. But, if you're a really specific person about your firewood and your twigs, perhaps there's a description of a twig. So when I was writing this clue, that's kind of what I had fun with. So smartass quality, I'm thinking like tone, and if you put in tone, like it's okay to try something, but I would, if you get something wrong and you finish the puzzle and you come back to it and a section isn't making sense, that could be a problem. So I would double check, oost, this is just not looking like anything that could be a word. So I would say, okay, let's back off on tone. And then looking at one down, it's often darker than the conventional finish is the clue. And again, this is going to be a long one. It ends in ing, but that really doesn't give me anything because it could be a long verb. There's plenty of nouns that end in ing, beginning, but I just don't have enough yet. Again, Tinder specification, I don't have enough. So this is kind of where I've gotten with this corner, and I'm probably going to have to move on to some of the more open, perhaps more difficult sections. Cornrow creator, again, this one is not screaming out at me, but when you have creator, it's also common to have to end words in ER in puzzles because they're kind of good ways to end, this could end in an R, a lot of words end in R, and a lot of words have the second to last letter being E. So I just know that a lot of words will have that quality. Awake, again, it's a pretty ambiguous clue, so I would wait on that one. Enrique Peña blank. This is trivia or just rote knowledge one. So, to spend any time trying to really think through like Spanish last names probably is not so useful until you have other letters. Doctor's order for short shows up again. So it could be another abbreviation. Just as a side note, like the New York Times, I don't know if they've ventured into this territory. Like, I think it's kind of cute to repeat a clue, but I don't know that it like hits for everyone. So I enjoyed having the option to do it on my blog, but I'm pretty sure it wouldn't get published in a major outlet. Lunar feature. So lunar is the moon. I have an idea that this might be an easy one to get, but let's come back to it. Nicety, at least that's how it might read on the surface. With the question mark, I would kind of question, this alliteration, like nicety. it makes no sense to say, it's redundant. So if we think, oh, this could be the city Nice in France, so a Nice nicety would be a word of appreciation in French. Merci. So we come back to lunar feature. Again, it's a bit of trivia, but a mare, kind of going back to Latin and French, is a lunar crater like a C. It looks like a C to the naked eye, or so we say. So cone, coiner, often. This is a harder one, but again, we could maybe put in ER. If you see again in a clue, play again, often it starts with re. Because again, ending in ER is common, starting with RE is common. As constructors, we try to avoid the glue starting with re, but sometimes we just have to. It's little bits of glue we use to make the puzzle work. Vacuum brand, Dyson, blah, blah, blah. If it doesn't come to mind, I would keep working on it. She got an A in literature. So another misdirection clue. It probably is Hester Scarlet from the Scarlet Letter, but let's pretend I don't have that bit of knowledge. Again, we're getting a little stuck in this area, so we might have to move on soon. Causes for tears or tears. So we could put in the S because it's probably going to be plural. And 32, they're probably blowing off some steam. Again, like it might be hot something, but it's a misdirection clue. At least I know it's going to be plural. Intoxicate, so nothing is coming to mind right away. And I'm starting to think, this area is just not going to work for us. So 36, bit of ostentation. Again, not jumping out at me. So perhaps we got kind of stuck here. Let's go up here and see if we have anything. Crime and horror, for example. Since it's an and, it's probably going to end in S. And I know that they're both genres of films or books. Something Donald Trump has that Barack Obama doesn't. It's probably going to end with S. What's something that a man has? It could be sons. And then if you think about it, Barack Obama has 2 daughters, and I don't know exactly how many children Donald Trump has because I don't care that much, but I know he has at least 1 son. So churl, if you don't know what that is, it's like a lout. So again, a lot of crossword is like knowledge building. Anvil neighbor. This is probably going to have to do with the bone in the ear called the anvil, because if you're just talking about a generic anvil, like there's nothing that kind of goes next to the anvil, but it's a tricky clue, so I'm going to leave it for now. Concern, again, kind of difficult. This one, like the middle banda of the Peruvian flag. If you don't know what banda means, you probably still could get it from context. It's probably going to be a Spanish word, right? And then it's probably going to be a color because flags usually have colors. So let's just kind of go out on a limb and say the banda is blanca, so it's white. Record label, again, a bit of trivia knowledge. If you don't know it, you don't know it. Cape, blank, a bit of trivia knowledge. If you know it, you know it. If you don't, you don't. Den of iniquity. So I think this one kind of sticks out as an easier one to put in layer. Thoughtless type. Again, we're always on the lookout for ER endings, so this one would be user. UI connector. I'm looking for something that's going to be a little tricky here. And so I'll leave that one. And the UI connector is actually 20 across, so it's going to be a 3-letter word. 15 down, accumulate as a debt. This is one that's going to end up being 2 words, but it could confuse you if you thought it was 1. In a lot of crosswords, it's preferable to use 2 common words over a more obscure long word, so that's why you don't see a lot of kind of just SAT words in crossword puzzles because editors and constructors consider them to be boring and uninteresting in general. Piece that often features a cover, pretty misdirecty, I would avoid it for now. So we're hitting some dead ends up here. 13 down, not forgive and forget. So, this one, it might be like be something, be sad, be sore. We'll come back to it. Now, concern, so it could be alarm, wouldn't be alert. Let's just say we thought about it more and, there's a Cape Ann, Massachusetts. This basketball player, jaw blank, I don't know who he is, so I don't have much on that. Spartan meat dish, question mark. So Spartan has a meaning of, not having a lot of adornment, but in this context, it just means Greek. Soupçon means like a whiff or a little bit, so I'm not quite seeing anything jumping out there yet. One who doesn't believe in global revolutions. It's a long one again, and I would encourage you to see, kind of think, it's probably going to be 2 or 3 words, but where does it split in the middle? So I see T here. It also could be a 4-letter word ending in T, and then the rest starts from EA. So maybe I kind of get that, and I thought about, okay, it's something earther. Soupçon was actually this way, so dawns on is another one that probably could be 2 words, and so let's say I just kind of see that it's probably occurs to. After party activity, this could be cleanup. I wrote this clue thinking it looks like an after party, so maybe it's still more partying, but the hyphen kind of directs you towards that it's something you have to do after a party. Place with a soggy bottom. Again, a clue, a word that shows up in crosswords more than real life, fen. So I try to avoid it when I can when constructing, but I kind of get stuck. Young and beautiful singer. I think most of us, at least in my age group, would know Miss Lana, so that one kind of comes into play. Translating to bearded in Tibetan. So it's probably like some kind of Tibetan animal or pet, but I'm not sure. Klutzy. This is a word that comes up all the time in crossword puzzles, so I just know it, inept. TLC provider, one hopes. So it's somebody who's caring for you. When I think about it more, maybe it's like a nurse or a doctor. In do not disturb mode. That could be offline. And then we have our one who doesn't believe in global revolutions being a flat earther. So this was a clue that I liked or an entry I liked because it, I've seen them write their posts on Facebook and it's just so bizarre. I don't think they really believe what they're writing. I think there's a lot of trolls trolling themselves, but it's just an interesting community. Top rating in the dating pool, kind of relating to our Tinder knowledge. This is probably going to be a 10 out of 10. Brother competitor, again, another difficultly written clue because brother, you would think of, the family member first, but it's a printer brand, so Epson is competing with brother. Now, once we get APSO, we've gotten it all from other clues, but we could kind of, if we're trying to solve for time, there's no need to confirm it, but if you want to make sure it's right, you could double check it. Now for this long one, I've kind of gotten the end of it, I see that it's probably 2 words and maybe it's probably going to split in the middle here. So it's something scanners. This record label, let's say we didn't know it. At this point, maybe we're getting onto alarm. Here we're thinking, okay, there's a bone called the malleus, and then a record label RCA sounds familiar. So they check you out to let you in. Retinal scanners is working for me now. UI, So accumulate as a debt. Again, I'm thinking it's run up. So something that comes between you and I could be nor. And then I said be sore before, so I think, be hurting, be sore, that works here. Orb casings of a sort. Nothing's popping out at me right away. This one, I think earn is the only thing that comes to mind. And then we're looking at this one. We think it's probably going to be 2 words again. Altern. The only word I can think that starts altern would be alternate. And then if we have to create a word out of this, we would put ending. So it's darker than the conventional finish. It could make you think about like a furniture piece and something technical with that, but it's actually about a movie. And alternate endings, sometimes they write one where like a major character dies. So that's why I liked this clue. Getting back to here, we have almost all the letters. Again, we could go, instead of doing our A through Z, we probably could just do vowels because, that's what's going to fit here. And tude pops out. Briefly means in short. So now complaint card is grousing. Tinder specification is going to be age something. Bar staple we're still not sure on. Izmir inhabitant. That is a Turk. It's in Turkey. Ja, I still don't know that basketball player. Expression accompanying the shrug emoji. Still don't really have it there. So this section is kind of going to be tough for us, I think. Let's go back here. Soupçon, again, it means a little bit, a trace. Tops, so it's going to be bests or aces. Coasts has to end in S. And I'm thinking skates is what makes sense here. We knew that it was Hester before, but we didn't quite put it in yet because I was pretending not to know. They're blowing off some steam, so it's going to end in S. And it's probably something hot, and then, from here I can kind of see that it's hot teas. Indulge a certain prenatal craving, jokily. So here it's probably going to be 2 or 3 words. Spirited dialogues, it's just kind of jumping out at me as seances. Gender neutral pronoun with a folkloric air. If you don't know that, you don't know that. The vacuum brand, again, if you don't know it, you don't know it. Intoxicate, nothing's jumping to me. So at this point, butts, could put in the S. You may get to a point in your solving of the Themeless puzzle where you say, I can't get anything else. Would it be the worst thing in the world to cheat? We could go into a really long discussion of cheating. Do you feel better about yourself if you don't cheat and leave this puzzle unsolved? Or do you feel better about yourself if you cheat on one thing, cheat the minimum, but you allow yourself the space to continue the puzzle? So I would cheat on this. I would Google Ja Morant if I really couldn't get anywhere else. Because in my view, a trivia item, especially when it is kind of in an area that's difficult, is kind of, it's a way, it's not the best for the constructor to do you. So I looked up Ja Morant, and now let's say, this P-pods for casings comes into mind. Suddenly, and it just kind of opens up a lot more stuff. Expression accompanying the shrug emoji. Now it could be like God knows or something. This is looking like age range for Tinder specification. I'm seeing unadulterated as pure. And then bar staple, green olives are in a lot of martini drinks. So we've kind of given ourselves a head start. And sometimes you just need that because, if it was the last thing that I couldn't fill in, then it would be just such a I kind of have to, because I just don't know it. But it's allowed me to progress in this puzzle to have looked up one thing. Awake, still not sure. Mount, now I'm seeing Mount as Vernon. I still don't know the president's name. Causes for tears. Now I'm seeing kind of like sorrows. I'm seeing that this could be eat for two. And then cone corner. So cone, if you don't know it, again, I think it would be fine to look up in a dictionary what a cone is. And it's like a Zen saying, like, I don't think this is quite the best example, but if a tree falls in the forest, does anyone hear it? So having a Z, we know, okay, that's going to be a weird word. Not a lot of words end in Z. So let's put in, it looks like a bit of ostentation and glitz. Awake. So that's another one. So awake, it could be like, aware. It could also be just up, and it could be a verb. So to stir is to awake. So again, an example how themeless puzzles kind of trick you. So then probably one of the weakest words in this puzzle, I will admit, twiner, is cornrow creator, someone who's intertwining pieces of hair. Doctor's order I see as MRI. And then I see, this one you could kind of maybe be stuck on it. The vacuum brand. So here, the intoxicate would be the one that's kind of like the easiest for us to get because it's not hard knowledge. And besought is an uncommon way to say get drunk. So that's my overview of the puzzle, and it took me about 26 minutes. So running you through everything, and you might have to commit some time to themeless puzzles, but in the end I think it's worth it. So thanks for watching this tutorial with me.